Hey everybody, Mr. Eric Jenkins coming at you with a brand new video series here on my channel. This is a series that I'm coining the watch list, where I basically go over what I've been watching over the past month. And I know it's April, but we are going to be talking about what I've watched in March. Unfortunately, wasn't able to produce this until now, so hopefully you guys can forgive me. But I want you guys to sound off in the comments. Let me know what you guys have been watching. What do you recommend? Have you seen any of the things that I'm about to tell you about? Let me know. Or maybe you'll take some of these recommendations I give you. Let me know. I want to hear it. I want to hear if you actually watched any of this stuff. Let Papa Rick know. So we have an interesting setup for today because we have some documentary series. We have some scare films. We have some scary films. And we have anime. I just recently started watching anime. I know I'm almost 30, never watched anime. Decided to give it a shot. And I had one recommendation, and I kind of just, fell down a rabbit hole of other stuff, and, I went from there. So, if you like this stuff, please consider subscribing. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, and I want to hear those recommendations. Sound off down in the comments. But let's get into it. Let's start off with the Netflix documentary series. So, I watched two Netflix documentary series, or docu-series. The first one that I watched was called The Pharmacist. The Pharmacist was released in 2019 and is a true crime drug epidemic documentary series. It follows Dan Schneider. No, not the weird foot guy from Nickelodeon that made iCarly. Dan Schneider was a pharmacist in New Orleans, and, life was going great for Dan and his family, and unfortunately, a couple bad choices by his son led his son to getting shot in a crack deal gone wrong. Dan being a little over presumptuous and, overbearing, but being a hell of a journalist and guerrilla investigator, tries to find out who killed his son. So he goes down to the neighborhood, canvasses the area. Unfortunately, being from an affluent area and being a white male in the middle class, going down to what is known as the slums of this New Orleans town, where snitches get stitches. He's not able to get all the information he needs. Fast forwarding to the next couple episodes where we get into the pharmacy aspect, he starts seeing all these young people getting prescriptions dealt from almost the same doctor of OxyContin. And he's realizing, these people are healthy. Why are they getting OxyContin? I don't think they've done surgery. And he can tell that he just knows that something's up. So he does his investigating, and he finds this woman. Her office is in the slums, and it's kind of like a pill mill kind of thing, where it's open late at night, and people are just getting prescriptions from out of state, out of town, and she's not asking any questions. She just says, pay cash, $250, here's your script, out the door. Which really, really is blood-boiling. If you've ever known anyone with a drug problem that happens to be prescription medication, there are people that do this. And their job as a doctor was to help people, not worsen their lives. And he even saw people that were once patients of this doctor, then not getting their prescription, going to harder stuff off the streets. So it's a very, very difficult documentary to watch, especially if you've lost somebody or know anyone with a drug problem. But it is very, very eye-opening, because you get a lot of different sides of the area. You get someone that was a salesman for the company selling OxyContin. You get the doctor's kind of frame of it, and then you get the pharmacist's aspect of it. And it's all nicely piled together because Dan Schneider recorded a lot of these phone conversations, and he even tried to get these doctors in trouble with the DEA and the FBI. Really, really cool series, especially if you're into true crime and drug stuff. 4 out of 5 for me. Definitely recommend this one. The second series came out in 2018. It's called Evil Geniuses. Tagline down below. It's a lengthy bastard. This is based off of the heinous true crime from 2003 known as the Pizza Bomber Heist, or the Collar Bomber Heist. If you're familiar with the comedy film featuring Aziz Ansari and not Michael Cera, 30 Minutes or Less, you might kind of know a thing or two about this heist without even knowing.
This is basically a heist that contained a kidnapped pizza delivery driver who gets a bomb strapped against his neck. He goes into a bank, asks for X amount of money. He pulls out, and he was supposed to do this kind of scavenger hunt thing to get all the keys to unlock the bomb, and then the money gets dropped off at a safe location for the shysters, and then he is not blown to bits. Unfortunately, what ended up happening was the cops saw this man with a giant neck walk out of a bank, and sure enough, they stopped him, and he's like, I think this thing's live, and he blew up. Very, very interesting true crime case in Pennsylvania. I recommend just looking up information about it, but also checking this out if you like true crime stuff. I'm giving this a 3.5 out of 5 because it is kind of difficult to follow. We are following the producer who's writing to one of the convicted felons that is like convicted of this case. And then more suspects come in and they throw their stories around, and we're trying to figure out who's lying and who's telling the truth. And then one of the suspects ends up passing away, and we're not able to get their complete side of the story. It gets a little kind of like Web of Lies-esque, and it can get difficult to watch because of it is dry. But definitely recommend it if you like true crime stuff. 3.5 out of 5 for me on this one. Now we're going to get into the DVD released videos that I've picked up over the past few months. The first one that we're going to be diving into is called, I got it right here, The Scare Film Archives Volume 1 Drug Stories from American Genre Film Academy Archive, my apologies, and Something Weird. Now, I talked about this on my Mail Monday video. Link in the description down below for that video. And this DVD Blu-ray release is longer than Zack Snyder's Justice League Snyder Cut. Just let that sink in. Over 4.5 hours of scare, tactic, after-school special, don't drink and drive, don't trust hippies, don't trust the man, don't do LSD, don't smoke pot, but it's okay to drink and take prescription drug films. They rarely talk about prescriptions, and they only talk about, I'll put it this way, they don't talk about the effects of prescription medication because that was given to you by a doctor, which the pharmacist actually kind of holds that nicely into place. But they do talk about the hazards of drinking and driving, very kind of driver's ed like, where it's like you could have 1 ounce of whiskey or 1 beer, and you have to wait an hour. Stuff that you've learned over the years if you've been through drug alcohol classes for driver's ed or just taken a health class in middle school or high school. But then you get the weird ones where it's like, the hippies came from this place, and they're bad, and they do this, and they have long hair. And then you hear, the greatest generation ever saying, I can't tell if it's a girl or a guy. And it's some of this stuff is laughably bad because of the acting. And then there's some that are just plain weird. There's one in particular where the girl wants to feel more grown up, and she's rebelling against her parents, and so she drinks and she takes prescription drugs, but they don't really talk about. And then it's but
pot. She wanted to try pot.
And they do a whole 10-minute thing on pot, and then she's about to try pot, and the people that give her the pot, they call him the pusher, which is great. I freaking love that. Send her to a car to smoke the doobie, or the Mary Jane as they call it, and they get busted because somebody narked on them. And so she goes back because she sees the cops at the car, and she tells yo bro, your friends got caught, and he throws her all the drugs and says, hey bro, go take her somewhere safe, and tells the heroin addict to go and bring her to his crack den. This girl's never smoked pot in her life, and she's now addicted to heroin. It's crazy, but they're trying to make a point. I totally get it. Is it for everybody? No. Would I recommend watching almost 5 hours of drug scare tactic films? No. Am I a crazy person?
Yes.
There is a mixtape cut version, which is about an hour and a half long. If you're a fan of Mystery Science Theater 3000, how to be a car salesman, and how to not smell during school, and weird stuff like that, or the Blockbuster training videos. If you like that stuff, 100% I would recommend like the mixtape hour-and-a-half version. Do that version of the Justice League. If you have 4.5 hours and you're crazy like me, yes, then sure, watch that at your heart's desire. 2 out of 5 for me. The last, this is a feature-length film called The Banana Splits, which I'm going to be talking about. The Banana Splits was made in 2019 and is based off of the Hanna-Barbera live-action Power Hour show of the same name from the 1960s to the 1970s. Very reminiscent of J.R. Puffin stuff. You've got like a big costume people jamming to groovy music, and like some Pee-wee's Playhouse stuff happens, and you know it's all fun and dandy. This was rumored, just so happens to be kind of rumored to be the Five Nights at Freddy's video game adaptation feature film, but very similar to what happened with Halo going into District 9. A film gets canceled, and then they have to take the assets and make it into something new. So here is our animatronic slasher horror comedy film. Very stale in the beginning, I'm not going to lie. It took me 2 times to watch this film because you see a lot of common tropes. You know, the stepdad's a jerk, and the mother just talks about how she wants to protect her sons, and she's wearing this tight turtleneck. And I told my fiance, she walked by while I was watching it, and I go, something's going to happen where she loses that turtleneck and she's going to become badass. She looks at me like I'm crazy, like, how the heck do you know that? And I go, it's going to happen. Watch. So basically, the family goes to a taping of the Banana Splits, and no cell phones allowed. Here's another trope. And the stepdad, being the jerk that he is, doesn't follow the rules and puts his in his back pocket instead of the bin with all the other phones. So we know that something bad is going to happen, and he has the only lifeline to the outside world. But he's going to be a jerk and talk to his mistress or something, and then karma will happen, and karma will kill him. I think her name was Carmen, but I don't care. Karma will get him and run him over, if you get my drift. So what happens is, before the show, the executives cancel the show, and unfortunately, the animatronics don't take kind to that. So they do their normal show, but the only thing that they know is to continue on. You know, the show must go on. So they start killing, and they kidnap the kids, and they put them down in the basement, and they do their own version of the show with like corpses and blood and all this other stuff. There are a lot of splatter blood scenes, which is why the comedy aspect comes into play. A lot of practical effects are used, which they're pretty decent for a kind of low-budget 2019 horror film. Really enjoyed it for the most part. Once you get past the first 15-20 minutes and you see all these tropes, mind you, I was right. She loses her turtleneck and she becomes badass. She's got a tank top on and she like saves a bunch of kids. So, spoiler alert there. But really, really cool premise. Executed decently. It's fun. It's fun. Popcorn flick. 90 minutes. You know, you want to see some red. There's a lot of red in it. Definitely recommend it. 3 out of 5. Not going to go out of my way to watch it. It's not the best slasher flick or gore flick out there. The kills are pretty decent. The story is kind of You kind of can figure out what's going to happen. But, you know, it's a good 90-minute romp.
Here comes 2.
So now we're going to get into the anime portion of this. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this so far. I want to continue to do this series because I just like talking about films and TV series that I've been watching and, you know, kind of get the vibe of what you guys are into. You know, recommend some stuff along the way. So just got into anime, like I said, and the first anime that kind of came into my lap was Demon Slayer. All of these, mind you, are going to be on Netflix. If that is your streaming service of choice, you can watch all 4 of these on Netflix. Demon Slayer is a 2019, kind of like samurai-esque anime, if you will, if you can put it in that kind of genre. The main character, Tanjiro, sells charcoal, pisses off Hank Hill in the process, and he sends his demons out to kill his family. No. But demons are very similar to half vampires, half zombies. Can't be exposed to sunlight, and they die when their brain or their head gets decapitated. His family gets devoured by demons, and the only surviving person of his family besides him is his sister Nezuko, who he tries to not have become a demon. He's trying to get her to a doctor, and word travels around that there's a mere mortal carrying around this girl in a box, and a person's like, hey, I'm going to train you to become a demon slayer. And time is not of the essence in this documentary, or not documentary, in this anime. Could you imagine if this was a documentary? I think he's like training for like a year and a half, 2 years, and his sister's just chilling, just sleeping the whole time. But he becomes a demon slayer. He becomes a certified demon slayer. He gets the stamp of approval. He gets the sword, and he's out there swashbuckling demons. Really, really cool series. Great scenery. Actually, excellent scenery. Pretty witty banter back and forth. Some funny moments. The demons are pretty interesting. And all the demons have different powers. Definitely recommend this one. Season 1 is out right now, and there's going to be a mini movie coming out, hopefully to streaming services by July, I think. 4.5 out of 5 for me. Highly, highly recommend this one. One that I don't highly recommend is Highrise Invasion. Not really going to get too much into this. It's trigger warning for suicide and sexual abuse. This is very rapey. It deals with a lot of promiscuous clothing high school girls and other high schoolers. That basically it's Hunger Games but on skyscrapers. Sounds like a cool concept until the sexual abuse and assault and suicide comes into play. These kids wake up and some of them have masks, some of them don't. The masks have to kill the people not wearing masks, and it becomes almost a game. Cool concept until, like I said, the sexual abuse and the sexual assault comes into play.
She's just sitting there. She's having a pleasant conversation, and all of a sudden, out.
It's very highly sexualized. Don't recommend this at all if you're watching it with a little one that's interested in Japanese animation. The comedy kind of falls flat. The fight scenes are great, greatly animated. The story's kind of all over the place. It becomes a Hunger Games thing, and then it becomes very biblical. Like, who's closest to God, aka the helicopter that's supposed to take you away. And it can be very hard to follow. 1.5 out of 5 for me on this one. Am I excited for Season 2? Not really. Will I watch it? Probably, just to kind of see what happens.
And not for the boobs and the butts, but...
To see what happens. But I'm not going to, like, watch it the day it comes out or anything. One that I will watch the day Season 2 comes out is another Netflix original, Doro Hiduro, based off of the manga of the same name. Picture this, if you will. Picture this. A man becomes a lizard man, and he's trying to figure out who made him a lizard man. And there's people that have magic, smoke, and they do sorcery. That's basically what this is about. We are following the man named Kaiman, the lizard man. And he's figuring out who the hell turned him into a lizard. And during a fight with his friend Nikaido versus two sorcerers, one is killed and the other one is badly injured. The injured gentleman goes back to N, who is kind of like the mafia of the sorcery world. And there's two worlds, the sorcerer world and then the hole, which is where all the peasants live. And the sorcerers practice their magic on the holites. And N says, well, I'm going to send my best cleaners out to kill this lizard man. And we're following Shin and Noi during this time, and they're badass. So BA. Gotta love them. But it's a really, really short series so far. Grimy, gritty, very funny when it all the humor lands. There's a little sexualization in there, so if you're watching with a little one, cover their eyes when the boobs come up. But very, very funny, very grisly. That's one thing. It's very violent, a lot of blood, a lot of big boom hits. That's how you rate an anime, by how many boom ba hits you get. 5 out of 5. It's great. I can't recommend this enough, and the manga is just as grimy and gritty. Very, very dark pen and ink style. Very, very cool. Very swag. I like it. The last one is called Great Pretender, which I highly recommend. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. I'm just telling you right now. Roll the credits. I recommend this anime for anyone that has never watched an anime before or is a newcomer to anime. We are following a gentleman named Edamura, who is Japan's greatest con man, as he likes to put it. And he tries to swindle the wrong person, who happens to be one of the greatest con men in the world. So Edamura follows this man back to L.A., where Laurent is his name, the blonde asshole, as he's also known around my apartment. He lets him. He's like, "Hey, you want to work for me? You have to pretend you're a scientist that made this synthetic drug, and we're going to sell it to this kingpin movie producer that also does drugs, like a drug ring." And he's like, really, really, really interesting story. And the seasons actually are in cases. So the first case is only 5 episodes long. So we're in LA for only 5 episodes. Then we move over to Singapore, and then we move over to London for the last 4 of that season. Love this series. It's very reminiscent of the film Sting or Ocean's 11. It's really interesting, and like it requires maybe another watch here or there, because you'll pick up little things from like case 3 that you might see in case 1 and stuff like that. The animation style is really interesting, very colorful, not super violent. It's more of a visual slash learning through dialogue anime, which I do like. I mean, there is some action, but like nothing crazy, and there's not sexualized. Like it's like a 2 out of 10 for sexuality, which is awesome. It's great for this would be one I'd recommend if you're going to be watching with a little one. 5 out of 5. Love this series. People are pushing for a season 3. I think it could stay where it is, but that's not for me to decide. I'm not an exec. So that's going to do it for this episode of The Watch List. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Sorry it ran a little bit long, but let me know down below what you guys have been watching. What do you recommend for me to check out the month of April? I do have a handful of things that I've been trying to get through, but you guys will find out what I've been watching at the end of the month. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.